Hello everybody, welcome to episode 13 of Setting the Scene. I'm your host, David. Now, this board build has given me a massive scratch of the head. I've been doing lots of painting this week. So you probably saw my progress on Zone Mortalis and a little bit on the Death Guard. So it's all progressing really nicely. I think the Zone Mortalis might be finished in about 6 weeks. That's pretty good going. Anyway, so why am I telling you that? I'm telling you that because in the background, I listen to a lot of audiobooks, as you probably saw me posting. I'm on Galaxy in Flames at the moment. So I'm just going back through the Horus Heresy, starting with the original book, which is brilliant, well worth doing. We forget the story, I forget the story. You know, we're so far now at Terra, you forget how it all happened. So I've kind of gone back, which has been really, really cool. But also, I like to watch Command & Conquer Kane's Wrath, RTS game on PC. I like to watch kind of battle reports from that. You know, you've got two guys streaming from different parts of the world. It's usually an American guy narrating. And I loved the entire Command & Conquer series. You know, I was right there at the first one, right through to the end. You know, I think it's Tiberian Sun or Kane's Wrath, whichever one it is, I don't know. But I've loved it right way through the years. I'm 40 now, so, you know, I've followed the progression of that game all the way through. Love it. And one thing I love about that game is not only it's an awesome game, of course, but the maps, of course, you know, are totally related to terrain building. And I was watching one the other day, it was kind of in a city, kind of, and then the Tiberium was kind of in a little kind of crescent shape, which you had to go around and collect. Anyway, it's usually the blue Tiberium is encased in kind of off the map with a bit further away stuff. Anyway, I'm not going to bore you about Tiberian Sun. Kane's Wrath. So I kind of like the idea of that. And this board is also a board I've been wanting to build for quite a while. And also after picking up the Mournival Red Book produced by the Mournival guys, there's the Decurion mode in there, which is really cool, essentially where every model is an independent character. You pay like 200-300 points and everybody's individual, and it's really cool. And it's essentially Kill Team in Heresy, but you haven't got to learn the 40k Kill Team rules to play Decurion, because you already can play 7.5 rules edition for Heresy, and you know all the AP and all the stats of the weapons and stuff. Although there is a Heresy Kill Team game out there, which I was sent a copy by a gentleman that put that together. And I can't remember his name, but I'll put his Instagram on the bottom. An amazing document, and if you haven't checked that out, go for it. I've never played Kill Team in my life before for 40k, and if I'm perfectly honest, I can't learn more than 2 or 3 rule sets. So I've got AT, AI, and Heresy rattling around in my head, so I can't learn any more games. Anyway, I'm waffling. I'm so sorry. So to that end, this is a board I've been wanting to build for a long time, and it kind of reminds me a little bit about that board that's at Forge World with the rocks, and it's got like loads of green gantries and stuff. It's an amazing, amazing, amazing board, and I'd love to build that for the channel. But as we discovered all the time, effort, and money, 3 things I just don't have right now. So this is kind of my little version of it, but I thought it'd be really cool for Boris and I to play over this board. It's going to be seriously heavily populated with stuff. It's kind of like a Promethean thing. They're going to have lots of these towers, a couple of bays and stuff, and loads of rocks. So real big height rocks. Boris has got formidable firepower in those Imperial Fists, and the word bearers, the list that I've constructed, are kind of running infantry heavy or assault troop heavy. So in this game, I'm going to take more vehicles. So probably going to take another Dread, maybe a Leviathan, and a couple of Land Raiders, I think, full of tactical marines. So that'd be quite cool. But I also think it'd be really cool if we've got these vehicles. Boris is going to take half vehicles, half infantry, I think. It'd be really cool for these vehicles to kind of dart in and out of the terrain. So, this is a long explanation. I didn't expect it to go on this long. So to that end, this is kind of what I've come up with. I've got all the grey rocks that I can find, because we're kind of on a black sand kind of thing to keep up with the theme of the game. And there is tons and tons of terrain on this board. So where to start? So if we switch to the other camera, you can see that we've got a load of rocks here to make kind of like a big rock formation. We've got a couple of these little 40k landing pads, which I absolutely love, and then a few more rocks here. And it's essentially to stop line of sight from one end of the board to the other. there will still be some line of sight, but most of it will be about where the vehicles go and what they do. So we've got a ton of my favourite piece of terrain, of course, which is the container. And we're going to use a ton of slate today as well to raise up the height of the board. So this is going to be a really long board build, I'm afraid. And I haven't quite worked out the final board in my head. I know roughly what it is, but I don't know exactly what it is. So I think a lot of this will just be sped up because I'm not going to talk you through every kind of thought process because this video has just gone for hours and hours and hours. So I'll stop at certain points and give you my reasoning for doing stuff, or perhaps why or what I'm doing. But I'm going to go with a very heavily or a very densely terrained, that's not a word, very densely populated board with terrain. Some interesting gantries. I'm going to have like a 2-height gantry, maybe one that crosses over here, which I think would be quite cool. You can still get a Land Raider or a Spartan underneath, or a Walker walking through would be quite cool. Yeah, I've got cardboard as well, and I'll show you what I'm going to do with cardboard later. I've got your classic crane and stuff. I've got every piece of Necromunda scenery, and all these pipes and gantries, and Jeremy's there along with his buddy, which I can't remember what other name we called him. So Jeremiah, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoy this one. I have a feeling I'm going to enjoy it as well because I've been wanting to build this for a little while, as I explained. So let's see what comes out of this. Right, what I've done here is I've tried to increase the height of the kind of the lie of the land so we can make a bit more of a feature of these to make sure they kind of stand up on the battlefield. But obviously that's extremely uneven. So we'll get the rough height of it, which is pretty good. And then what we'll do is we'll take a load of the black sand and we'll just fill in the gaps. And we'll just try and make it as level as possible, and then we'll work everything else around that. So it's a little bit involved in this board, but hopefully the result will be worth it. And you can see now that that fits so much flatter, and it's kind of increased the height. So we're not worried about blending all of the edges in at the moment. We just purely want to get the shape of this building or this kind of installation. Next, we're going to place these. I'm going to try and make them equal as much as possible. That's about right. All right, just there. And then I'm going to build a platform around here to connect to this rock here. You probably can't see very well from this camera or that one, but there's a big rock here. I'm going to try and build a platform round to that and maybe increase the height of it. So I've already started. These are the ones I cut down earlier for one of the original setting the scene video. So it's just one of the normal stanchions that has been chopped down. And we want to do that. That's fine. It doesn't work right now, but don't worry about that just yet. It's a bit all over the place. Now we can probably get a Rhino or a Sicaran through there, but we might struggle getting a Land Raider. So I might just pull that out a little bit. We're going to just have to fill this gap up now a little bit. So we'll chuck some little stones in there. Just need some more sand. Just reinforcing this edge here. The stanchion's a bit too short, but I've just reinforced it with a big rock and it works. There is loads of gaps, but we're going to fill them, so don't worry about that. That fits beautifully, in fact. I'm going to turn that rock around. Yep. Now over this side, I want to build maybe a tiny landing or an observation pad. So what we'll do, we're going to need a load of these clips, but they just break so easily because they get wedged in there quite a lot. All right, so we're kind of hoping for something like this. Now, I think in the future, when I get all the Necromunda stuff painted up and you've got the staircase, it'll make boards like this so much more cohesive because you'll have a very clear platform or access from one platform to another. Whereas at the moment, because I don't have them, we kind of have to fudge it a little bit, which is not ideal, but you know, until we get those bits sorted, it's just the way it's going to happen. You know, we could do that if we really wanted to. I do think it looks a bit terrible, but it's not too bad actually. Let's do that. I mean, I've got no option. I can't make a step up. So we're just going to have to run with what we can do. And it does flex a little bit. Now I did say I was going to make it into like an observation deck, but I like the fact that we've got another silo on there. Yeah, it kind of works really. I don't want it to be off, if you know what I mean. Just need to wedge a little bit more rock under there. I appreciate you might not want to go to the lengths like this at home. You know, I totally get that, but it's just the way I build boards. And I do think, you know, I talk about this all the time. I think it does make a difference. It really does. And it's worth putting the effort in for you guys, you know, to show you what it is capable. I mean, the kits are amazing, you know, and you don't need all this to make a good board, but I think it really enhances it. Yeah, look, we've got it. I mean, that's fairly good. That's fairly stable. That's not too bad. I can handle that. My OCD will let me get away with that. I think what we'll do is we'll make these two the silos, and then the other one will house a crane, I think, because everybody loves a crane, right? I think the tallest one, I think they both should have the stack on them. Yeah, I think that's really cool. Just add some really amazing height to the build. I haven't got the other one here. I'll go grab it a little bit later on when I come back. And I've got loads more stuff to grab from downstairs. So I think that works. Oh, I just love it just to stay up just a tiny bit more. I need some rock to wedge underneath it. It's not quite working. It's not as flat as I want it. You know, if we're going to put models up there, it needs to be reasonably flat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pack this entire end out with rock. And then I'll put a load of slate on there, sorry, the sand, and that will hopefully flatten it out. And it's helped. It's not quite solved the problem. Need a little bit on there. Yeah, there it is, and that is that. That will do really nicely. I almost don't want to put a thing on there. Oh, what do you reckon? I think it could be a really good point to get to, rather than completely obscuring it but then I like the kind of the height to it. I'm not sure, I might come back to that, but I like both. That gives you a little bit more playability, I guess, but then that kind of gives you a little bit more line of sight. I'm not sure, I think we'll come back to that. We'll deal with this end next. As you can see, the board is an absolute mess, but you know, things get messy before they start to look good. All right, so we've got a little tricky one here. You know, this doesn't quite, because obviously I haven't increased the same height of it, but that's okay. I'm going to fill this up with the sand, and it will look like it's just kind of flown through. But what we will do is we will put a double platform there like that. I kind of want 3 of these really. I only have 2 of these domed tops. I need to buy some more because they're such a great looking piece of terrain. And I might leave that one. I don't know, I might swap that. I haven't quite decided yet. I kind of like both really. And the next, I'm running out of platforms, so I'm going to try and make a feature of the rock in the foreground there. To kind of continue it on really. So I've only got one corner section now, but we can do something with it. Let's have a quick look. I think if anything, these platforms are too tall. Excuse me, let me rephrase that. They're not too tall, they're great, but they perhaps just don't fit what I want them to fit, that's all. I think that's probably more to the point than anything else. We've got another one over there, which we'll put this crane here. We all know I love a crane. I think the crates and the crane have pretty much featured in, I'd say, probably most of the board builds I do. It's just hard to escape, isn't it? Because the terrain is so amazing, and it's hard not to want to include them in your battlefield. I'm just kind of experimenting about what I want the board to look like. Quite like that. You know, somehow you've got to get to that crane, right, to service it or operate it or whatever, you know. I kind of like that. And again, this is where stairs would come in handy, when you can kind of come up here. All right, so this is proving quite tricky to achieve what I want, but I think we will get it. We might need to readjust a few things, but I think we'll get it. This whole board relies on me having enough of these little clips. I think that would be a good thing for Games Workshop to sell separately. Would be these clips, because they are in high demand, especially as they break so much. Okay, got a weird shaped platform. It might not completely fit, but we're going to try. It's close, you know. I might need to put it on the angle. So this is where you come a cropper. This is where they break. Trying to separate them. They're just hopeless. We'll get it though, don't worry. No, it's just not going to work. I think I'm trying to be a bit ambitious there. I think we're going to abandon that. I've just broke a clip. Brilliant. If you have any clips, I will take donations. Oh God, or exchange them for a 30k channel sticker. How does that sound? Oof, I bet you are keen. Right, let's replace that. Okay, so I mentioned about getting service to the crane. We are not going to be able to make a walkway, but we've obviously got ladders, so we will use the ladders to gain access. Which, you know, this is a Necromunda set. This isn't a set of terrain to place around rocks, so you know, can't be too upset. Okay, that'll do. What I'm trying to do now is I'm just trying to add a little bit of detail this side. I like that this area is quite heavily populated with stuff, and there's a really cool little archway here which stuff can go under. And also what it will do is it will help just counterbalance this a little bit and make it a little bit straighter. It has started to lean a little bit, so this will help with that. Yeah, it's definitely helped it a little bit. And the more I pull this back, the more space I've got room for a contemptor and a load of infantry. Oh, decisions, what to do. Yeah, we'll keep that there. We'll keep it there. I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it. I don't really use these pieces very often. I've seen some cool conversions of them online, but I just can't seem to find a spot for them. Right, I'm going to have a quick 10-minute think about where to go next. Next, I'm just going to rough out where to put these pipelines. I like the fact that they just disappear into the rock face, and we can cover them up. It's almost like they're buried. And obviously the ends have to be broken, of course, because we are in a war. And I might just put another one. I'll put another one here, I think. I quite like it there. Just a shorter one. Totally different direction to the other one on the other side. And then finally, maybe one here. I'll try and put it in the same position as this one. And I think maybe one over the far side. So I'll clear all my gear away from over here. Like so. And I think what we'll do is we'll actually put this one coming out of the silo. We'll use a little skinny one for that. Yeah, that looks pretty cool. Looks like it's feeding into something. Yes. I think the next thing to place now is the containers, because there's still quite a lot of line of sight, particularly in that side of the board. So I'm going to put a few here just around this crane here, and then the rest I'm going to pop over here. We'll get rid of this big old rock. Oh, well, we could use the big old rock. We'll cover that up with something later on. Yeah, I kind of like that. It just looks like an abandoned pile of stuff. It's not quite in the way of everything. It's kind of out of the way. Maybe the crane's sorting it. I kind of like that. I think the board's pretty much there. I don't think I'm going to add any more pieces to it, but what I am going to do now is I'm going to have a complete clear down, and then I'm going to put a lot of rock around the base of the rock, and then I'm going to put all of the black sand on there, and that will just tie the entire board together. So it's a bit of a long process clearing down. I didn't end up using the cardboard, but I was going to use the cardboard to kind of level off some of the platforms. I still might try and level off that big one there because it's not quite there, but I'll speed all this up so you won't get too bored. All right, this next bit is really easy. All we're trying to do is we're just trying to feather the edge of these hard rocks with the smaller ones. And that's just so we get a gradual kind of slope to things when we start to add the black sand, really. So, you know, this is totally trial and error. And what I will do at some point as well is I'll just put some random rocks here or there. I don't want to cover the entire surface of the board with rock because I don't think it needs it. And I think some areas will still need to be fairly flat as well. It doesn't need to be completely, it doesn't have to have rock over it completely. So we'll just go around and do that quite quickly. We're going to need quite a few rocks here to blend that edge. You can see I put a bit of cardboard in there as well. It really helped to smooth that out a little bit. But now I've got a massive bit of cardboard stuck in the face of it. So we've just got to blend all that in. I want to put a bit in here as well, because I'm going to fill that area completely with the black sand. So I don't want to use too much of it, that's all. Same goes for this side as well. Just going to kind of pack that out a little bit because I want the black sand to kind of envelop that whole area. It will look quite good once it's done. But then also want the rock to stick out a little bit as well. That'll look quite cool. All right, next comes the easy bit now. We just got to dump all of this all over the board. You can see what I mean about the black sand there, just covering it all up and filling it up. I've got to go downstairs and grab a load more of this stuff, but it shouldn't take too long. All right, so that's a lot of sand we've got down in here now. Well, it's not sand; it's aquarium aggregate, isn't it? So all I'm going to do is I'm now just going to push this everywhere. Now these pipes, I'm probably going to take them out now because they're just going to get covered, and we want them to peek through a little bit. So, and the crates as well, I just got covered. Bit too covered for my liking, so we'll shake them off a little bit. And all I'm doing now is just smoothing it out. To cover it. And you know, 99% of those rocks you won't see now because they've done their job. They've built up the lie of the land. And these stanchions here, which hold this platform up, they're half buried now because, you know, I talk about this all the time. The prevailing wind and, you know, like on a planet like this would be pretty harsh, and, you know, it gets into absolutely everything. And, you know, you'll get drifts of this all over the place. So stuff that's kind of half buried. And I've pulled these pipelines out, and I'm going to just rebury them, just heap them up, which is good. We could use the I can't remember what it's called, the Forge World defense lines to make kind of barriers for these pipelines, but I've decided not to do that for this one. I'm just going to keep them as they are. I'm trying to get hold of a load more because I want to build a quite an interesting board. Don't ask me when, I don't know. Timelines, I always say, oh, I'm going to build this board by then, and then something happens and the delay is just unreal. Or I can't get all of the parts that I want. So I've just given up now trying to set myself targets for boards because it just never happens, you know. Zone Mortalis got in the way of one of my last projects. And then, you know, I switched to Death Guard and it's just been it's been a bit of a nightmare, to be honest with you. But no less, you know, it's not a bad thing. It's just, there's only so much one person can achieve, you know, and I've got Boris comes over and James does Adeptus Titanicus. But I think I find it really hard to convey what I'm after to people. And so I inevitably end up doing it myself. But that's not because I think I'm better. It's just because I just like to do things myself. I don't know why. But yeah, I think the boards are the unique thing. One of the unique things about the channel. I think I just take a lot of pride in the board builds, and I kind of don't want to hand it off to somebody else, but it's hard, you know. Anyway, I know I'm waffling and I'm just pushing sand around the place, but all right, we're getting there. The beauty about this now is you can add or take away as much as this as you want. So you can pare it back if you need to. You know, you can reveal this landing. Well, we're using it as a bit of a base platform, aren't we? But you know, you can reveal or cover it up as much as you need to tell the story that you're trying to tell. I think that is pretty good. I'm really, really happy with it. I am going to get a touch more of this aggregate, and that's literally just to bury, just to fill a couple of these holes in a little bit more. I'll replace this pipeline. And this pipeline is just a beautiful example why this aggregate is so good, because it, you know, we don't need to show the bit where it's got into, like the manifold sits on the pipe and then it takes it into this bowser here, for example. It's just a suggestion that it goes under this through a pipe network that's been buried into the rock, or even goes down into the ground into like a Zone Mortalis. Maybe this is like an iceberg. You know, you've got, I don't know what percentages, you know, 10% is above the water and the rest of the 90% is below, you know, maybe it's like that. Right, this is the last of the black aggregate I've got. If you're wondering how much I've used, I think I've got about 4 bags of this. You get quite a lot in a bag, but you'll need at least 2 or 3 bags to fill a 6x4. So if that's your intent, you'll need to buy quite a bit of it. And it's about, I keep forgetting, it's about 18 or 20 pounds a bag. But you know, you'll say to me, well, that's expensive, but it isn't because you can reuse it all the time, and it does such an amazing job for battlefields. Just going to take that off there. Oh. There we go. Appreciate you can't see that on the camera, but I'll take a photo of it. It's just blended it all in really nicely. Yeah, I've moved it. I've decided to move it. I can't make up my mind. I might move it back. So if it's been moved back after when the battle report is shown, you'll know why. I can't decide. I like that though, because I like the fact that you've got a bit of a platform. It'll give us a bit of an objective to go to, which I quite like, because you know, high ground is always good, particularly you know, if you're an Imperial Fist player and you've got 10 heavy bolter marines or 10 missile launchers, which I know Boris has got. So I think he'll enjoy that if he can get there. We're nearly there. That's okay there. Quite happy with how this has turned out. Yeah, I love how it cascades down the side of that. I'll get a photo of that and show you. It just looks fantastic. I like these rocks. They're just a little smattering of rock here and there. You know, if you want to go back in, you can just plant a rock, get under the surface, and then just slowly cover it over. That works really well. Yeah, you know what? I'm pretty pleased with that. Next thing, of course, is our slate chips. This really pulls the board together. Don't want to go too crazy, but it helps just break up the colour a little bit. Don't need a lot of this. And I think in the larger areas, just a tiny smattering, just to break it up, because it does just look like blackness. We want a little bit of contrast in there as well. It's like making a pizza. If you've ever made pizza at home, or maybe you work at a pizza store. Pizza is my favourite food. It is official. It's absolutely amazing food. Pineapples or not, I don't mind which. I know that's a divisive statement there. Done. I think I'm done. I don't want to go overboard. Might put a couple there. Pare that back. Just make a bit of an effort just to blend some of that in. One question I get asked is, obviously when you're playing the game and you're moving vehicles around or infantry, you know, they do leave depressions. And that would be fine if it left beautiful little boot prints in the ground, but obviously it doesn't because they're on round bases. And yes, it is a pain to clear up, but, and we do find myself, after each movement phase, just kind of fluffing the board, if you will. That's it. And then finally, the last piece, which is very important, our friend Jeremy. Jeremy needs to be useful, doesn't he? So let's make him go out right on the edges here, and he's trying to repair this broken thing. Pipe, sorry, I know what a pipe is. Right, that is done. I think it's a really cool looking board. I think it's going to be very tough for both armies to get their vehicles around, and getting charges off will be quite interesting as well. Line of sight has been dealt with. There are some key positions for infantry to take up, but failing that, there is a lot of open ground, particularly on the edges. Everything is kind of centered around this this installation here. I think it works really well. I'm really pleased. I'm much happier about putting this here now than I was earlier. So that's good. I'm not going to fiddle anymore. I really hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions you'd like to ask me directly, it's david@the30kchannel.com. Please leave a comment below. And if you're building these boards at home, please send me a message with a photo and I'll pop them up on Instagram and show them off. I really hope it's been an inspiration for you. And I urge you to try and build a board like this, because I promise you, it will change your game and it will change the way you build boards at home. Again, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.